The global economy is hyperventilating. For over a century, the Panama Canal has been the undisputed jugular vein of international trade. But right now, that vein is constricting. Imagine the world's most expensive parking lot. Billions of dollars in liquefied natural gas, grain, and consumer electronics sitting motionless in a tropical heat wave. The problem is simple physics, but the consequences are catastrophic. The Panama Canal isn't just a trench, it's a water elevator. To lift a single Neo-Panamax ship, the canal consumes 200 million liters of fresh water, and Central America is drying up. As Leviathan, the canal's primary heart, hits record low levels, the big ditch has done the unthinkable. It's started turning ships away. Right now, global shipping is facing a $30 billion ultimatum. If you can't fit through Panama, you have two choices. Sail 13,000 extra kilometers around Cape Horn, the graveyard of ships, or find a new way through the continent. And that is where the ghost of a century-old dream returns to haunt the world. Nicaragua. Let me show you the impossible geometry. If you look at a map of Central America, Panama looks like the logical choice. It's the narrowest point. But look 600 kilometers north at Nicaragua. It looks twice as wide, a daunting 278-kilometer trek from sea to sea. However, Nicaragua has a cheat code, Lake Nicaragua. It's a massive inland sea that covers over 8,000 square kilometers. To build a canal here, you don't need to dig 270 kilometers of solid earth. You only need to cut two plugs, a 25-kilometer stretch on the Pacific side and a 100-kilometer stretch on the Atlantic side. The rest is open water. On paper, it's the most efficient shortcut ever conceived. In reality, it's an engineering suicide mission that would require moving 5 billion cubic meters of earth, enough to bury the city of New York under 15 meters of dirt. This isn't just a bigger version of Panama. This is a plan to literally resculpt the face of the earth. But while the world was laughing at the sheer audacity of the cost, the silence just ended. The ground is moving again. For 10 years, the Nicaragua Interoceanic Canal was the world's most famous vaporware project. In 2013, a mysterious Chinese billionaire named Wang Jing stepped out of the shadows with a $50 billion checkbook and a promise to make Panama irrelevant. The world watched in disbelief. The proposal was insane. A channel 280 kilometers long, 230 meters wide, and 30 meters deep. It was designed to handle Triple-E-class megaships, monsters so large they make current Panama Max ships look like tugboats. Then the silence became absolute. Wang Jing lost 85% of his fortune in the 2015 Chinese stock market crash. The cranes stopped, the offices closed. Critics called it the Great Wall of Sand, a monument to ego that would never see a drop of water. The project was declared dead by every major maritime publication. But in 2026, the variables have changed. The drought in Panama isn't a one-off event. It's the new climatic reality. The Suez Canal is increasingly vulnerable to regional instability. Suddenly, a second route through the Americas isn't just a nice-to-have luxury. It's a strategic necessity for the survival of the East-West trade axis. And here is what nobody is telling you. China isn't the only player at the table anymore. While the West was distracted, Nicaragua quietly signed new strategic partnership agreements. They aren't looking for one billionaire anymore. They are looking for a coalition. But there's a reason this canal hasn't been built in 500 years of trying. It's because the geography of Nicaragua doesn't just resist construction, it actively tries to destroy it. If you want to build the Nicaragua Canal, you have to sign a pact with the Ring of Fire. Unlike Panama's relatively stable terrain, Nicaragua is a volcanic minefield. This is the danger threshold. The proposed route cuts directly through the path of the Concepcion and Maderas volcanoes. We aren't just talking about mountains in the distance, we are talking about active tectonic giants that sit in the middle of Lake Nicaragua. The lake itself is a seismic bowl. Here is the engineering nightmare that keeps planners awake. Seiches. When a major earthquake hits a body of water as large as Lake Nicaragua, the water doesn't just ripple, it sloshes. A seiche is a standing wave in an enclosed body of water. In a 30-meter deep canal channel, an earthquake could create a wall of water that would tear a $200 million cargo ship apart like a tin can and destroy the lock systems in seconds. And then there's the freshwater death spiral. Lake Nicaragua is the largest source of drinking water in Central America. To operate the locks, the canal would need to flush millions of tons of saltwater into this freshwater ecosystem every single day. You aren't just building a canal, you are potentially poisoning the lifeblood of an entire nation. The Atlantic side of the route is a swampy rainforest abyss. Engineers are staring at a rainfall rate of over 5,000 millimeters per year. In this environment, the Earth behaves like liquid. Every meter you dig, the jungle tries to slide back in. To keep the channel open, you would need a dredging operation that consumes more energy than some small countries. So why, despite the volcanoes, the earthquakes, and the ecological suicide, are they still pushing forward? Because of the 12,000-mile leverage. Right now, a ship going from New York to Shanghai is at the mercy of Panama's weather. If Nicaragua completes even a single-lane express channel, they don't just win a piece of the market, they own the master key to the global supply chain. The question is no longer, is it possible? In 2026, we have the machines. We have the AI-driven logistics. We have the dredging technology. The question is, who is willing to pay the Earth tax? Who is willing to bet $50 billion that they can tame the volcanoes before the volcanoes tame the project? This isn't just about water and rock. It's about who owns the 21st century. For over 100 years, the Panama Canal has been the ultimate symbol of American power in the Western Hemisphere, the reason the US Navy can pivot between oceans in days. But as Panama faces an environmental collapse, a power vacuum has opened. Nicaragua is the battlefield where the new Cold War is being fought with dredgers and debt. China has a problem. 80% of its energy imports pass through the Malacca Strait, a choke point easily blockaded. To break this encirclement, Beijing needs its own strategic gateways. A Nicaragua Canal isn't just a trade route, it's an insurance policy. By funding a project that bypasses US-influenced Panama, they create a permanent Belt and Road anchor right in America's backyard. Nicaragua is betting its entire national identity on this project. They've already amended their constitution to give foreign entities sovereignty over the land. If the project fails now, Nicaragua becomes a failed state of ambition, saddled with impossible debt. But if they succeed, they become the Singapore of the tropics. The stakes aren't just billions of dollars, it's the survival of a regime and the map of global influence. To understand why Nicaragua is the focus in 2026, you have to look at the ships. We are entering the era of the ultra-large container vessel, ULCV. Ships like the Everalot are nearly 400 meters long, longer than the Empire State Building is tall. They carry 24,000 containers. When one of these moves, it carries enough cargo to fill a train 70 miles long. Even with its 2016 expansion, the Panama Canal has a limit. The locks are 427 meters long. But the industry is already designing the next generation of post-Neo-Panamax giants. These ships are being built so wide that they physically cannot pass through Panama's locks, even if the water levels were perfect. They are literally outgrowing the canal. How do you move 5 billion cubic meters of Earth in a decade? In 2026, the project is banking on autonomous swarm dredging. Imagine hundreds of AI-controlled underwater drones and massive automated cutters working 24/7, guided by satellite telemetry. This technology didn't exist when the project was first pitched. Now, it's the only thing making the timeline plausible. But the deeper you go into the Nicaraguan shelf, the more pressure you put on the underwater slopes. One massive landslide, triggered by a minor tremor, could bury 5 years of dredging in 5 minutes. We are approaching a collision course with history. As we move closer to the projected milestones of late 2026, the world is holding its breath. The Jeddah Tower proved that 7 years of silence can be broken. Now the Nicaragua Canal is trying to prove that a century of failure can be overturned. The environmental Armageddon. The final conflict isn't written in steel, it's written in the water of Lake Nicaragua. Scientists warn of dead zones, where oxygen levels drop to zero because of the sediment stirred up by megaships. Can a nation survive the destruction of its primary water source in exchange for becoming a global trade superpower? There is a secret Plan B circulating in the halls of Managua. If the full canal proves too dangerous, they might pivot to a dry canal, a massive, high-speed automated railway system. It's less dramatic than a water channel, but it's faster to build and avoids the volcano problem. But a dry canal doesn't give you the same prestige. It doesn't allow a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to pass. It doesn't break the Panama monopoly. As of late 2026, the first test excavations on the Pacific coast have begun again. The ghost of the canal has been replaced by a state-backed consortium that doesn't care about stock market crashes. They care about history. The machines are no longer silent. As of mid-2026, the Pacific entrance is a hive of autonomous activity, and the world is forced to look at a map that is being redrawn in real time. We are moving past the phase of proposals and models into a brutal physical reality where the first billion tons of Earth have already been displaced. But as the trench deepens, the pressure doesn't just build on the canal walls, it builds on the very fabric of global stability. If the Nicaragua Canal reaches the 30% completion mark by 2027, it triggers a geopolitical event horizon. Shipping companies will be forced to sign 20-year contracts for a waterway that doesn't fully exist yet, shifting the financial gravity of the planet away from traditional Western hubs. This is the ultimate gamble, building a $50 billion gate and betting that the rest of the world is desperate enough to walk through it, regardless of the environmental or political cost. The true test isn't the first 100 kilometers or the last 100 meters. The test is the moment the first ULCV, ultra-large container vessel, enters the lock system under the shadow of an active volcano. In that moment, we will know if human engineering has finally ascended to a level where nature's most violent forces, seismic shifts, volcanic eruptions, and tropical deluges, are merely variables in an equation. The Nicaragua Canal is more than a shortcut. It is a monument to the 21st century's refusal to accept limits. It is a story of a project that died, became a ghost, and returned as a titan. Whether it becomes the crowning achievement of modern engineering or the most magnificent ruin in the jungle, it is happening now. The Earth is open, the water is waiting, and for the first time in history, Panama is looking over its shoulder.